Hi, and welcome to Two CPAs and the Mic, the podcast where we talk tax, finance, and all things related to business. Whether you're a business owner, working professional, or someone who wants to start a career in accounting, this is the podcast for you. Hosted by CCK Strategies partners Jeff Frable and Sarah Mays, we dive into relevant business and tax matters with working professionals to make these topics less intimidating, relatable, and dare we say fun? Let's get down to business.
Welcome to this week's episode of Two CPAs and the Mic. We're so glad you joined us today. We are here covering relevant business and tax topics, and we're doing so by applying straight talk, practical information without all the jargon and stuffiness that's normally associated with our profession. We're so glad you joined us today. We have what I would call our three amigos in the studio today. I am Jeff Frable, a partner with CCK Strategies. And as always, my amazing co-host, Sarah Mays. What's up, Mays?
What's up, Frable? Okay, so that's the first time you've ever dropped three amigos. So
yeah.
Who's Dusty?
Let's just keep it going, guys.
Christy, come on.
And you heard her voice, yes. Our amazing on-air producer, Christy Porter. KP, what's up?
I'm just feeling like dancing now. I don't know.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Well,
do all the things.
I thought it would be good. Our listeners follow our personal lives, and we've got some things going on. So, Sarah, your G-Baby is coming.
My G-Baby is going to be here in a matter of days. Probably by the time this episode drops, fingers crossed, I will be a G-Mama.
The baby will drop as well. That's right.
Yes, that's right.
So if you're following life with us, that grandbaby is coming. And as far as I'm concerned, my amazing oldest daughter is graduating with her PhD in 2 weeks. We're so amazingly proud of her and all she's done. So, and Christy, the girls, how are the girls?
They're awesome. We're in lacrosse season. So, this is my favorite season of the year. Yes. Lacrosse season has started.
Yes.
Both girls are in college playing. And boy, if I don't have proud mama voice right now, you're never going to hear it. Yeah. That's it. It's happening.
It is.
Well, we do have a lot going on, but the fun part today is we get to record this podcast, and we have another amazing guest. We told the firm today that I feel like we've been coming out strong in season 2. We've had some amazing guests, really great information, great knowledge getting dropped on us, and today is no different. So, Sarah, let me ask you this question. Yeah. If I told you that the best leadership training program isn't found in an MBA program, where would you go to find that leadership training program? I mean,
ChatGPT, right?
ChatGPT, yes, because it does everything.
Yes. Honestly, I don't know if I would go to a program. It's just living life and lessons learned, and you fall and you pick yourself back up again. And really, that's
keep going.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, some
and glean from other people. From other people,
like a mentor. Some might want a mentor to go through this. Some may want the real world experience. The concept of just coming out of high school and going to work and going to the right place and getting with the right people is obviously an option. But what if I told you that addiction recovery was a great leadership training ground? Would you believe me or not?
I would have some questions around that for sure.
Well, then you might want to listen to today's podcast, ironically enough. Our guest today is Michael Brody-Waite. And I'm just going to say right now, welcome to the show, Michael.
Thanks. This is like the most lively CPA-based show I've ever been a part of. You guys have this I feel like,
are you speaking their love language already?
I grew up in Los Angeles listening to K-Rock and Kiss FM, and I feel like I'm listening all the way back in the 90s to tell people that have this perfect rapport.
So I'm the 80s guy, Sarah's the 90s chick, and
which one of you is Adam Carolla and which one of you is Dr. Drew?
Do you want to answer that one, Jeff?
No, I'm good. I'm good. Well, Michael, at this point in the introduction phase of the podcast, we generally go over all the awards and stuff that our guests have won. And yours is a little bit different. At 21, and if I have these ages off a little bit, let me know. But at 21, you were hopelessly addicted to drugs and you wanted to die. That's correct. Not a great place to be. At 23, you fought through recovery and started a new life. And then 13 years later, at 36, you were a millionaire and an award-winning CEO. You revolutionized how patients schedule appointments with doctors and hospitals. Your company had a 20,000% growth rate and a spot on the Inc. 500 list as the fastest growing company in the country, and best places to work in Nashville 5 times. At 37, you were a CEO with the Nashville Entrepreneur Center. And then things got really crazy. You did a TED Talk in 2018, and you've had over 3 million views. And the topic was Great Leaders Do What Addicts Do. You've been the Entrepreneur of the Year with the Nashville Chamber, and currently an author, speaker, leadership trainer, coach related to great leaders live like drug addicts. I know I sat in, you're making the rounds with the American Institute of CPAs. You talk with a lot of different CPA organizations, and we are just really honored to have you today as our guest. So as we get going with all those accolades and that life story, just kind of walk us through at a very high level, your life journey, and really, why should people stay on this podcast and listen to you?
Oh, man. Still hearing my story, it's kind of hard to believe because I always tell my wife I'm just playing with house money, like I should be dead. So to have the opportunity to sit here and joke around with you guys and tell my life story and try to help somebody, that's amazing. So I would say I learned very early in my career that everybody that was successful had a certain blueprint for how they were successful and what leadership looked like. You didn't admit weakness, right? We get that from the military. You project strength. My family success was not having difficult conversations. In entrepreneurship, it's chasing a bunch of distracting opportunity. Like I got all these messages for what successful leadership looks like. But as a recovering addict, I had to learn a process to save my life that told me something different. And I think if anything, the principles that addicts use to recover are the greatest behavior modification program in the history of humanity, applied to one of the most dire afflictions that's been used in every country and every language around the world. And my fascination became, as I used that to have this incredible story that you just talked about, was why aren't we talking more about that process? And why are we always putting the next general on the stage to talk about military strategies, the next professional athlete, the next Mark Cuban, and ask them about leadership, and they recycle the same old stuff? Like, why aren't we going to a place where literally millions of people today are walking around alive and they shouldn't be because of that process?
Yeah.
So
let's just to give people a little bit of an idea of where you were, and not to in any way glamorize, but were you just kind of smoking weed once a week, or were you a real addict? Give us kind of that information.
When I have a conversation with the normies, they all want to hear about the moment that they don't experience. And they're like, okay, so was it crack? Was it crack? So for me, let's see, it was a fifth of vodka a day, a case of beer a day, an eighth of weed a day, as much painkillers and mushrooms I could get my hands on, 2 packs of cigarettes a day, and then pretty much like drinking and driving and picking fights with people twice my size, hoping they kill me. At the end, I don't remember if this made my book or not, but I talk about this moment where I'm on Venice Beach and I'm in this weird triangle with a homeless man and a hooker. I don't even know if that's a PC term anymore.
I remember this.
Sex workers, I think, is what we say these days. And I just remember I wanted what the homeless man had. He had a blunt. He wanted what the sex worker had. And she thought he had money, so she wanted what he had. And I'm just there. And she thinks I have money too. And I just remember thinking, like, this is not where I thought I would end up. And yet at the same time, I felt like I was born without the instructions on how to deal with life and life's terms. From the second I became socialized, like in high school, like 8th grade, I went to college and I was just really lost. I mean, I took a winemaking course, okay? Future alcoholic, okay? And I failed it. Like, your job is like, it's winemaking 101. And I freaking failed it because I was too drunk and high to show up to the class where, like, I literally took it. So anyhow, it's kind of ironic. I didn't expect that's where my life would be, but considering how hard it was to deal with life and life's terms and that I didn't have the instructions, it also made perfect sense. And I wanted to OD, but with the things I was using, that was hard. And I worked really hard to try to do it. And I tried every way to kill myself, except, a very obvious way. And so that's where I started. And to give you an insight into what it's like to be an addict, when I got into treatment, first of all, the first day I get to lunch and they paired me up with a buddy, and the buddy escaped. So I'm like, does this mean I shouldn't be here, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm looking for reasons not to be there.
Not to be there. Yep.
And then 3 or 4 hours later, this guy looks at me and he's like we're in prison. He's like, hey, what are you in for? And I'm like, alcohol, weed, painkillers, mushrooms. He's like, you didn't shoot up? No IV drugs? And I'm like, no. And he's like, get the F out of here and come back when you have a real addiction. And so sometimes you never know if you're an addict until retrospect, right? Because to him, I didn't have a deep enough bottom, but to me, I wanted to die.
Yeah, absolutely. So the main story there is that pretty much anything anybody can think of when they think of an addict or seen on TV, that's pretty much where you were. You were not the most honest person in the world. You lived your days looking to get high and all that kind of stuff. And then something changed. And so before we get into those recovery principles, which carry so much weight, let's talk a little bit about, you mentioned your book, Great Leaders Live Like Drug Addicts. There's a couple quotes in there I wanted to just kind of get your thought on. One was, you said in there, I'm not successful in spite of my addiction. I'm successful because of my addiction. So could you talk a little bit about that and what that really means?
God, how self-centered do I seem? I'm tearing up. You just read me, this is kind of fun. You read me my quote and I'm tearing up while you're interviewing me. Feels like I'm not trying to worship at the altar of Michael Brody-Waite here, but that's such a crazy thing to say. And I think that some people might take that as, oh, I'm an addict, so I work addictively and therefore I've been successful. And that's not what I mean. When I wake up in the morning, I'm not religious, but I'm spiritual. And I thank my higher power for a lot of things. And one of the first things I thank my higher power for is my addiction. And sometimes people will correct me and be like, you mean your recovery? I'm like, no, my addiction. Because if I hadn't been in that much pain, I wouldn't have been willing to work a 12-step program. And if I hadn't worked a 12-step program, I would not have been equipped with a self-leadership process that I truly believe everybody in this earth needs and most people don't have. And I got to go to a place where I got to practice that and someone taught it to me and I get to teach it to others. And so that process, I had a mandate. I have to work that process or I die. So when I started getting leadership opportunities and I had the temptation to try to lead like everybody else, I literally had to, or I was going to die, lead differently according to those principles. And as a result, those principles gave me an experience as a leader that was better internally while still being able to manifest some pretty awesome success externally, but more importantly, be able to teach other people not just how to lead, but how to live. Right. And if I hadn't gotten that, man, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be able to bag your groceries, let alone be on this podcast.
Yeah. Quote number 2 here. Doing drugs was the easy part. What was hard was having to manage every little piece of my life around my all-consuming need to get high and stay high. So how do these concepts of drug addiction and entrepreneurship kind of intersect? How do they relate to each other?
Well, as an entrepreneur and as an addict, I can tell you the same thing is inside of me in the sense that I have a very obsessive mind. And I have an incredible bias towards action. And I would love to say that's because, I'm such a go-getter. No, I just have an incredible aversion to feeling my feelings. And so the problem is that those are the Holy Trinity. The obsessive mind creates a lot of feelings that I want to outrun. And so I outrun them by acting with action. Mm-hmm. So as an addict, I want the noise in my head to stop. And so that noise becomes directed at how do I get this to stop? And it's, what do I have to steal? Like, where am I going to get the dope? Like, whatever it is. And then even before I put the first bit of poison in my system, how am I going to get more? 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 And addicts actually make great CEOs because we're constantly thinking about the future because we're going to run out. You know what I mean? There's an element there. And so as an entrepreneur, it's somewhat similar. I'm obsessing with this idea for my business, this problem, this opportunity, this market, this product, or whatever. And then my brain keeps thinking about it. So I got to take action because thinking about it is agitating me. And I don't know how to get out of that feeling. I don't know how to soothe myself. So I'm going to go take action. And then the difference, though, is as an addict, I go take action and I become a social outcast. But as an entrepreneur, I get all the accolades that everybody wants. I get money. I get to tell them what to do, if they work for me, even though I didn't do that. I didn't get off on that. I wasn't like that. I actually felt like a fish out of water when I was around entrepreneurs because I felt like a lot of them, and I'm not putting all of them in this bucket. They were like the same version of me that was on that beach in Venice, in Venice Beach, just unchecked with a different drug. Whereas as an entrepreneur, I was trying to build a business in recovery. And so I'm trying to do it also different than the entrepreneurs are too. But there's a lot of similarities underneath the hood.
Yeah, very much so. Sarah, do you have anything that you wanted to throw out to Michael about the addiction phase before we move into the recovery principles?
Don't ask me where to get some drugs, Sarah. I don't know anymore. Okay?
Absolutely not. I think one of the questions that kind of popped up was Jeff was saying at 21, you were addicted and you wanted to die. But then you were like, I heard you say you started recovery at rehab. There was a moment where because you said, I didn't want to die. How did that kind of transcend from, or go from, I wanted to die and to, I actually do want to live? And where do you remember that moment?
Honestly, it wasn't a moment. It was a series of experiences. And when I was in rehab, I spent the first 2 days there convincing everybody I didn't belong. And then there was this gentleman, I still remember his name, Troy, and he had a young child and he had a wife, and he was talking about how much his drinking had negatively impacted his child and his wife. And he was very family oriented. And he was like, I'm going to do whatever it takes to stay sober for them. And I just remember thinking, I don't have anything like that to stay sober or clean for. I wasn't that motivated. But as I continued to progress through the treatment program, I started to experience life unmedicated, and I started to remember what it was like to laugh. And I started to remember what it was like to have human connection. And it's amazing how much I would simulate that to get by, but how much I was dead inside previously. And I started to have dreams, and I started to remember the better parts of me and the better parts of the people around me. And I had some tender moments and some hard moments, and I basically became reacquainted with my humanity. And in doing that, I started to develop this kind of desire on some level to be like, well, I'd like to live differently. I'd always wanted to get the best out of life. I was labeled as this high potential kid that never did anything with it. I dropped out of all the honors classes because I didn't want any pressure. And I was like, what if this is my shot? And I started to develop this little idea and this little hope that what if I'm not destined to die young? What if I'm not a waste? What if I've been missing the answer? What if I've been missing the solution? And what if this is it? What if these 28 days, this is the moment that completely changes my life? And what really sealed that in for me is, we would sit in order of when we came in, and I remember, and then you graduate and you're at the end, and Troy was graduating one day and he's like, so I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go do this. And 5 days later, he was back in. He left saying, I'm going to get a sponsor. I'm going to go to meetings. I'm going to be the dad I never thought I could be. I'm going to be the husband I'm never going to touch alcohol again, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
5 days later, he was back in and he had burnt his life to the ground. And you spend enough time hearing your story come out of other people's mouth, you're going to start to realize, okay, I'm an addict. And then they would have these people that had long-term recovery come in at night and talk to us. And they would talk about how they had turned their lives around and how they had all these things they never thought they would have. They had the ability to fall asleep at night, look at themselves in the mirror. And I'm like, man, it's possible. I want that, but I better take this seriously if I'm going to get that. And one of the things I tell my sponsees, and this is going to sound potentially weird, you have to hustle for recovery the way that you have to hustle for the dope.
It's a daily thing, right?
I started chasing recovery like I chased that hot from there on out.
Michael, your motivation is crazy. I'm just going to say it. I mean, even as you're talking about yourself as an addict, I hear all of the qualities of an entrepreneur. Even whenever you're digging a little deeper into this, what's that guy have? And your curiosity might have been a little piqued about the family. I don't have that. But that's a common trait I hear in so many entrepreneurs. I work with them and I'm surrounded by them. Jeff and Sarah are examples. And there's one thing that they generally have in common. It's that high level of curiosity. And even in your darkest days, it must have been there, just suppressed a little bit by everything that was in your system. But I'm sitting here just going, wow, this is cool. And by the way, the tears, that was your humility just coming straight out. So very
humanity.
Cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, we've covered the concept of the addiction and gave some details about that. So now let's progress to talking about the things that you learned through recovery that you surprisingly found are extremely important and effective in the business world. And I think that this is what our listeners need to hear, especially. And so there's three, to really simplify it, there's three rules. And I'd like to go into each one of them specifically and break it down a little bit. But at a high level, it's practice rigorous authenticity, surrender the outcome, and do uncomfortable work. Those are the three things. And let's start with the rigorous authenticity. So you defined authenticity as in your book as true to yourself in word and action. The thing that caught my attention was the word rigorous. And that's defined as strictly applied. And then practice means to implement an idea. And the way I interpreted this is it's the concept of being real, being vulnerable, open, honest, etc. You gave two really amazing examples. One at the beginning of your career, not even your career, you're being employed. And one when your company was about ready to go crazy. And let's go back for a second and say, the company that you had that you sold was named InQuicker, right? And it was a way for patients to get into an ER or the doctor's office in a more efficient and effective manner, something everybody
skip the waiting room.
Yeah, something everybody struggles with. And so you tell this story about I don't know if you were just out of recovery or whatever, but you went to apply for a job at Sam Goody, which was for all our younger listeners, that was a record store. For all our younger listeners, a record was not streaming music. But
saying record store does not help.
Yes, that's right. So what happened was you had this 3-year gap on your quote unquote resume, and you had this dilemma of what do I say when they ask me about it? Take it over from there and describe in kind of at a high level about that story and what you did and what happened.
So just to make it really clear, so authenticity is a word that gets thrown around a lot these days. And so you're right, the key word is rigorous and the other key word is practice, but really rigorous. So to give you an example, authenticity is my sponsor asking me, did you hurt people in active addiction? And me saying yes. Rigorous is when he gave me a piece of paper and said, list every single person that you've hurt and how you hurt them, and now go make amends to them.
Wow.
So rigorous is where the rubber hits the road. And I think we live in a world where everybody's got a couple principles or ideas or whatever, but like I had a concrete 12-step system to operationalize those principles in my life, and it was rigorous, right? So in business, before I even tell the story, I think most of us walk around knowing what a better us would look like, right? So delegating not just some of the things, but all the things that you're currently doing. Setting expectations for clients every time correctly so it doesn't set you up for failure. Mm-hmm. Not having any meetings that are a waste. You know what? Like spending more time in strategy and business development instead of being addicted to admin, right? Having the accountability conversations and not just doing this stuff sometimes, doing it the way an addict does drugs or a recovering addict does recovery, rigorously, right? And that's where all the potential gets reaped. So I just say that as a backdrop because I learned this in this moment because I'd moved into this halfway house and I had 5 business days to get a job and they were going to kick me out if I didn't get a job. And I applied for this Sam Goody job and I wanted to go there. And I got this interview on like day 3. I haven't read my book in a while since I wrote it. And I still don't remember what's in it. But so I might misremember my own stories a little bit, but they're directionally correct. I assure you. I did a lot of drugs, so I assume people are going to give me rope. Not today, I assure you.
Right.
So anyhow, I'm on like day 3 and I got to go into this job interview and I'm like, how do I answer this question? How do I respond to these questions that are going to come inevitably about these huge gaps in my resume? And my sponsor tells me, just tell them the truth. And I'm like, well, you don't understand. If I tell them the truth, I'm not going to get the job. And that's like one thing. But if I don't get the job, then I don't get to stay in the halfway house.
Right.
And if I'm not in the halfway house, I'm going to be out on the street. If I'm on the street, I'm probably going to use again. And isn't your job to help me not put drugs in my body? So like, you got to tell me something better to say. And he just said, you know what? What's true in your higher powers world anywhere is true everywhere. And you asked me to help you stay clean. And what matters more than getting that job is whether you're willing to practice rigorous authenticity. And it reframed it not as I need to get this job to stay clean. It's I need to practice these principles to stay clean. And rigorous means I don't get to pick and choose where I apply them. And so I get into that interview and inevitably he starts asking me these questions and I start tearing up and I tell him that, I just got out of rehab and that I was a hopeless drug addict, but I'm turning my life around. I'm at a halfway house and I really need this job. And this is what I found since teaching this to thousands of leaders is people don't understand the fact that no matter how much we're taught as leaders that we need to pretend that we're something that we're not, every human wants to be led by a human. Our humanity is the differentiator in a world of humans that are trying not to appear as if humans. And this is not like even considering AI, right? Like not even considering that. And so I believe that there was something that was touched inside of him when I was that vulnerable about my reality. And since I've had the opportunity to teach this to entire companies and stuff, what I've learned is if you lead with your fear, people lose their defenses and assume what's known as positive intent. And then they interpret all the data after that in a far more positive light because they can empathize and relate to the circumstance that you're in. And so I don't know whether he had an addict in his life. I don't know if he was in recovery, but he could relate to being scared, I'm sure, of having something that you need to say that's going to potentially make you lose something that you want. That's where the second principle comes in, surrender the outcome. Attachment to an outcome is, I'm scared I'm not going to get something that I want. I'm scared I'm not going to keep something that I have, or I'm scared something bad is going to happen to me or people I love, right?
Right.
And so we're not scared of a car hitting our car. We're scared of getting injured, right? We're scared of the outcome of that as an example, right? I mean, I get some humans will be like, no, I'm scared of that. But technically we're scared of the outcome of that. And so like when I was making amends to my parents, I wasn't scared of making the amends. I was scared of what might happen once I tell them all the heinous stuff that I had done, right?
Right.
And so in this interview, that's my fear. But see, he could relate to that. And also the last principle, doing uncomfortable work, people spot true leadership and they covet it and they want to follow it. And when you see a human that's doing uncomfortable work, you respect that, whether you're able to recognize that or not. And I think he respected it. And so maybe I just got lucky. But he gave me the job. And what I will tell you, because I've had to answer this question, people are like, okay, but what if he didn't? I promise you, the win was me practicing the principle in that moment. Self-leadership is not about winning every time. I've taken my fair share of L's since I've been clean.
Yeah.
Since I've been an entrepreneur, since I've been successful, I've taken plenty of L's. But what matters is how effectively we lead ourselves through all those circumstances. And in the end, I think the benefits far outweigh the costs.
Yeah. So let's ratchet it up a little bit. You are getting ready to...
You want to up the high, Jeff? I'm down. I do
Jeff
that
is still
all the
wondering
time.
what a normie
is. You're getting ready to sign a big contract with a group that has hospitals nationwide.
Yep.
And you find out there is a system problem with your software, with your process. And you come to this crossroads of, do we disclose this in this contract negotiation or not? How did that play out? What did you do there?
Yeah. Well, I mean, so 24 hours prior to that moment, this huge health system literally said, we're going to sign a contract with you to go nationwide. And that was going to take us from running out of money and having to close the business to millions of dollars in revenue.
Right.
And so I still remember we were traveling to go see a customer, and it was me and two people on my team, and we were staying at this hotel. And this is back when we're staying at hotels where we're all in the same room and the front door is to the outside, right?
The scary hotels.
Yes. And I could not sleep because I was like, this is the American dream happening right now. Like it is happening right now. I was buzzing with so much excitement, so much happiness. And I finally drift off and I'm like, I can't believe we did this. I can't believe we're here. And I wake up and my COO, because we were sleeping in the same room, is on the phone with our CTO. And he's like, whoa, slow down. What happened? And I could tell from his tone, like something bad has happened. And from what I start gathering from just the one side of the conversation is that something has happened in terms of our security that should have never happened. And so I say in my TED Talk, software failure, I feel more confident saying it was a HIPAA security incident. Okay. And anyone that knows HIPAA means if you're a healthcare technology company in your infancy and you have no backers of any kind to give you legitimacy, and your CEO is a freaking drug addict with no college degree, you can't afford legitimacy challenges, right? So like the fact that that's a potential issue is got my attention. And then my brain starts going, well, I hope it's not that health system. Like we've got 6 hospitals under contract. We're about to go to like 70. I've got a 1 in 6 chance that it's that health system. And it was the health system. And so my COO kind of freezes. I get on the phone with my CTO and who is my business partner. And he starts telling me, he's like trying to explain it away. He's like, look, man, he's like, it was one patient. We don't affect health outcomes. And the patient doesn't know, and the health system doesn't know. And even more so, it wasn't a random like hack. It was a security professional at another hospital somehow was able to get to it. So they were like protected under HIPAA there too. So there were a lot of reasons to go, it's not worth it. Right. We're going to wreck this company over this. Like, come on. And so he's arguing that we should just fix it. And we're driving back from this customer meeting and I'm like shaking. I actually, not to get too crazy with you guys here, but like I start writing a letter to God, just like telling how scared I am. Yeah. Because I had mortgaged everything. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'd mortgaged everything on that company and it was the middle of the recession. So I didn't even know if my old company would take me back. Like I just got married. Like I was so scared and my dreams have been dashed. And I call him again and he's still working on me, trying to get me not to tell them. And our contract said we would tell them within 24 hours. So like, as we're driving back to Nashville, we were like in South Carolina or something like that. I'm like, by tomorrow morning, I will have done the thing or not. I will have complied with this contract or not. And I've got tonight to think about it. And so I'm in the middle of that thought process and I have a sponsee that calls me. And one of the things I was taught in recovery is the reason that we sponsor is not because we're just trying to, give back. We do it for that reason, but you can't keep what you have unless you give it away. My sponsor told me if you don't sponsor people, you will relapse. That's how it works because we have what's known as a forgetting disease. And so no matter how much I practice these principles, I need to be reminded of them constantly. And so I'm on this phone call with my business partner. He's trying to get me in, and it sounds really good to skip telling them. And then my conscience is like, you really want to live with a lie? Is this the beginning of you relapsing? So like, I'm not just at war with my financial future, my business. I'm also like now my recovery, because lies for addicts are not something we can hold in recovery. And so my sponsee calls me, he's got this relationship issue and it's really complicated. And his wife did something and then he did something. And I don't even remember the specifics. And I just find myself telling him, the equivalent of, dude, you just he was weighing all of the cause and effect of, do I do this thing with my wife? Is she going to leave me? And am I going to be hurt? He felt like he had been wronged. Like, I don't remember all these. He's weighing all the terrestrial downstream effects. He's thinking past it. Okay, what happens if we get divorced? What happens to this? He's thinking about all of these things that are activating fear, and he's so invested in them. And he's missing the most important thing, which is right now in this moment, how can you practice these 3 principles in all your affairs? Because that's the only thing, that's what got you here, because he was sober and clean. And that's what's going to keep you sober and clean. And so I'm like, you got to practice rigorous authenticity. What is being true to yourself in word and action? What is the courageous self-leadership act that you need to do right now, no matter what? What is the outcome you're scared of? Let's talk about that. Okay, here's how we surrender it. Let's write out all the things that you can't control. Let's write out all the things that you can. And let's focus on what you can. And then let's do the uncomfortable work. And part of that is he and I were part of a community. We built a bond on a belief and value system around doing uncomfortable work, not hard work, not smart work, uncomfortable work. Hard work's physical, smart work's intellectual, uncomfortable work is emotional. Most of us don't get taught that. We get taught the others in our childhoods, our careers, but we don't get taught how to work through the discomfort of emotion and fear. And so I'm like, all that matters is, what are these 3 principles right now? He's like, oh, well, then it's really simple. Being true to myself is this. I get that's what I'm scared of, but I'm going to do the uncomfortable work because that's what got me here. So it's doing that. And I get off the phone with him and I'm like, I turn back to my COO and I'm like, okay, I just solved the problem. He's like, what are you talking about? You're talking to your sponsee. He's not a healthcare technology advisor. Like, I mean, this kid was like 25, like, right, running a lawn care business. And he went out dancing in the clubs till 4 a.m., right? Like, he's not exactly my advisor on how to build a business. And he's like, how did he tell you what you needed? I was like, I had what I needed all along. Just forgot it. And so it was then that I knew that what I need to do is I need to inform this health system, write it up, send the facts, and then call them. And so we get back, we're up all night writing the notification out. We fax it. And then as soon as it's 8 a.m., I call my contact there and I'm like, hey, Trish, I just want you to know, I just faxed you something. I don't think you've gotten it yet, but I want to be the first one to tell you because you put your career on the line with us. We had a security incident and I had to notify you. And she's like, oh my God, what? Like, okay, what happened? And I tell her what happened. And she's like, and so how many patients were impacted? I'm like, no, it's just that one. And she went from like serious and dire to like this pause. And then like, she just started laughing her head off, which was not comforting to me whatsoever.
Right.
And I'm like, why are you laughing? And she's like, Michael, when we get a call like this, it's because someone has impacted 20,000 patients and it's like adverse outcomes. Yeah. You had a security professional access technically protected information, but it's not health information, like medical history stuff. And it's just one. She's like, dude, our vendors, I know have this and they never call us. And I was like, so what does this mean for our partnership? Because I know just yesterday you were going to make this big commitment. And she said, if anything, this makes me more confident because now I know I can trust you.
That's awesome.
And I've always wondered whether I can trust the other ones. And so for us, I always like to say, we didn't risk the company that day. We built the company that day.
Yeah. Amazing story.
Yeah.
Okay. Does everybody cry with that story?
I'm actually tearing up right now. I haven't told that story in a while.
Wow.
But yeah.
And I love the way the thread of the other practices, the surrendering the outcome as well as the uncomfortable work and how you brought that in with each one of those situations. Talking a little bit more about surrendering the outcome. So I ran marathons for 20 years and I always laughed if someone would say something conceptually like, well, why don't you just run faster? I'm like, oh, okay. I'd never thought about that. I'll just do that. So when you talk about, the outcome is the result we want or the result we want to avoid and surrender is let go. The way I want to respond is, oh, okay, I'll just let it go. How does that happen? How do you get to the place? And what does that really look like to just let it go? And how do you get there?
So it's a great question. It's always the one that everybody has the most issues with. And so I'll start it with this. Going back to when I had to make amends as part of my recovery process, steps 8 and 9, that was really hard because one of the things I had to do was I had to tell a former employer that I stole from them and I didn't know if they were going to press charges. And so one of the things that happens is we get desperate enough to live or lead differently that we're willing to give these 3 principles a chance. Me giving them a chance meant me getting a sponsor and saying, please teach them to me. And my sponsor was able to share multiple stories of where he had to take an action that was scary and he was scared of the outcome. And it either worked out fine or it wasn't as bad as he thought, or every once in a while it was bad, but actually he couldn't have imagined how he would recover and how it'd be part of his story and actually turn out to be this other thing. And so when I went in to go make that amends to my former employer, I wasn't alone. I was equipped with a sponsor who had had a conversation like that 50 times and hadn't died yet. I had a spiritual mentor say to me the other day, he said, I've lived, 45 years, which is however many days, and I've survived each one. So why would I think I'm going to die today? When he's talking about like some hard stuff. Yeah. And so part of what helped me was I'm trying to buy into the idea that practicing these principles in all of my situations aren't going to assure me success in any individual situation, but are going to assure me that I stay clean. Or for business professionals, that they're going to be more successful than they were and be able to do more while sacrificing less. And so having that belief in someone else's lived experience guiding me gave me the courage to go take that action. Well, I took that action and I made a bunch of those amends, and some didn't go well, but most of them went better than I thought. The worst things that I imagined didn't happen. And the one with the former employer went fine. And so all of a sudden, now I have lived experience of surrendering the outcome, and my fear is exposed as a liar. And that's really important, to expose the fear as a liar. And so then I get challenged to do it again and do it again and do it again. And so the first thing is, this is not a one and done. This is not get really inspired to surrender an outcome and just go do it. This is about practice. This is about doing it over and over again. Number two, it's about not doing it alone. It's about having other people around you that are committed to these principles to help you do it. And then number three, I was given a specific set of steps. Like even since I wrote my book, I've created additional steps because surrendering the outcome turned out to be really hard for you freaking normies, right? Apparently you didn't have a gun pointed at your head in terms of dying from an overdose. And I still remember I did this huge engagement with like HCA, and my wife had worked at HCA, and she's like, the hardest principle you're going to have with them is surrender the outcome. Like, no, that'll be, people get it. You got to surrender the fear. And the entire workshop stopped at principle 2, took 2 hours extra, and I didn't even get to finish. It was a disaster. They were not that excited. It was very early in my career. And I came home and she's like, you don't understand. That's the one. That's the principle that people have the hardest part with. So I just want to set the context. It's about practice, and it's about not doing it alone. That being said, the way that I teach it to my students, I get to teach like really big CEOs. I get to teach all kinds of leaders. My team works almost exclusively in the public accounting profession now. But like what I tell them is I say, we got to get really clear on the outcome that you're scared of. Don't give me a general fear. And then what we have to do is we have to ask ourselves a series of questions. The first one is, what are you scared so in this example of me having to tell this customer that we had this security incident, what am I scared that they will think? And I literally have people write this down. Okay, well, they'll think that we are a terrible company to partner with. So the next question is, what am I scared will happen to me if they think that? You see, when we're scared of an outcome, we're scared of usually what someone will think, usually when it comes to this work, how that will then relate to us not getting something. The client doesn't like us, whatever. And our brain immediately goes to survival and says, well, what happens to me if they think? And we can go, oh, I'm a servant leader. I don't care what happens to me. No, like our brain has a survival drive, and it's going to say what happens to me. And so in this example, you're going to be financially bankrupt. You're going to lose their company. You're going to not be able to go back to your old job. You're going to be potentially like living on the street again, and you're going to use again like that. And then you're going to die. So it's like concocting this really dramatic story. And then the next thing is, and this is the hardest thing, is what is the deeper death or doom script that you were socialized with when you were young? That is the thing that holds you back from your potential as a leader and as a person. And for me, it's always been, I'm going to be homeless. You know, I brought home my 5th grade report card and it wasn't good enough. My mom said, you want to be homeless? Brought home a bad report card in 6th grade. You want to be homeless? Left the electricity on in 8th grade during a recession. We're going to be homeless. Found out I'm hooked on drugs. You're going to be homeless. So sure enough, every time in a professional setting, I'm faced with having to say something or do something that's uncomfortable because I'm worried what the outcome is going to be. My brain tells me a story of how I'm going to be homeless. And so if people don't identify their death or doom script, if you don't identify your death or doom script and you don't own it, it will own you because you will avoid all of your uncomfortable work and you won't lead yourself. And so learning these strategies, I go even further. I then will tell my students, on a scale of 1 to 10, how uncomfortable is this death or doom script or this outcome that you're scared of? They'll be like, oh, a 10 out of 10. And then I'll say, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely is it that if you take this action that we're discussing, that will come true? So for example, if I tell the healthcare system that we have a security incident, on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely is it that I will die from an overdose because I do that? Oh, it's a 1. And so then what we do is we divide 10 by 1, multiply by 100 to get to a percentage. And then we give them a statement that says my fear of the outcome is 1,000% greater than it actually deserves. And that helps them use their intellect to override the emotion and then to get them into action. And I alluded this earlier. We have them write all the things that they can't control and all the things that they can, and then cross out all the things they can't control and circle like the highest impact thing that they can control. And that actually shifts that brain from focusing on all the things that are going to mess us up to how do I optimize whatever it is I'm about to do. And now you've got to practice. So like every time I'm faced with a paralyzing outcome, I could turn on a Tony Robbins tape and be like, you just got to do it, man. You know, like or whatever, try to set myself on fire, do my own firewalk in my house. Like I could try to get some TikTok inspiration, right? And maybe if the pain is great enough, I will do it this time. But if you want to systematically overcome fear, you have to systematically practice something. And that isn't psyching yourself up. And I just learned these little steps inspired by my experience in recovery that I practice over and over and over and over again that allow me to do it. Just like for you, Jeff, you don't run a marathon overnight. It's a series of practice. You have to do a long run, a short run. You have to take care of your body. You have to get your nutrition right. You got to do all these things. It doesn't just happen. And then every once in a while, this is the true danger. I'm going to wrap up this thing here with something that's going to feel like a tangent. I am a motivational speaker and I hate motivational speakers because every once in a while, using the marathon analogy, every once in a while, there's a freaking David Goggins.
Yeah.
And he writes a book where he ran an ultra marathon with no training and somehow he got through it. And then he goes on Instagram and he puts out content being like, you're not hard enough. You got to do this too. And we all go, why can't I be like David Goggins? Well, if you were going to be David Goggins, you would be David Goggins. And so what happens is people with exceptional inherent strengths are able to do exceptional things. And then they try to make that motivation for the rest of us to do the exceptional things. And I will tell you, the most exceptional thing I ever did in my life was not do drugs. And that's not because of anything inherent inside of me. It's because I was taught a process that I had to repeat over and over and over again that helped me experience that thing that was exceptional.
Mic drop.
Yes. Yes.
Not that I care about that.
I can see you're not very passionate about this.
My voice is like half out as it is.
So good.
Okay, let's talk about the uncomfortable work here. Is there a difference between hard and difficult? And what are we talking about here? Are we talking about just difficult conversations, or are we actually talking about physical things that are uncomfortable to do, or what?
All right,
all of that.
Since we're coming to you live from an accounting firm, I'm going to use the profession as an example, even though for my fellow entrepreneurs listening, like this still applies to you too. So don't freaking get off the phone. Well, yeah, you're on the phone listening to the podcast. That still works.
Yeah.
So here's hard work in the accounting profession. A manager doing the work of their staff after hours because they know how to do it better. A partner that is doing the work of their managers because they know how to do it better because they're scared to give up the client relationship. Working hard is doing all the admin stuff and staying late and doing all that. I think most people, and we are working ourselves to death. We're so addicted to being busy thanks to our phones and everything like that. I don't really think working hard is that much of a problem. If you want to go down the Gen Z route, I will stop you there and tell you that they just work differently and they're wired differently. Do not go there. Everybody's working hard. They're just working hard in a way that most people don't understand. So that's number one. Most of us know how to work hard. It usually starts with physical hard work. We learn it in sports or athletics or something like that when we're young. We get into our profession, we grind. So we know how to do hard work. Smart work is taking that volume of effort and increasing the quality and efficiency of it. So a salesperson that's out doing a bunch of sales gets a CRM and suddenly they're able to keep track of their clients more effectively and automate a bunch of functions. If you want to be better at delegation, as an example, you go to a delegation training. So you learn like specific tools and templates, and you get all of this knowledge on how to work more effectively. And so what we've done with the thanks of the information economy, content marketing, software explosion, artificial intelligence, all these things, we have all of these tools at our disposal to work smarter so we can take that volume of effort, the 2,000 hours that we have to give plus whatever, and we can get a 10x yield, just like a farmer that's using pesticides, right? Well, I don't want to just go there, like hate on farmers, but like all my farmers out there still love you, but I go organic whenever I can. But we say, how can we increase the yield? And so we work smarter. But the problem is that we have this illusion that if we work hard and we learn how to work smart, we will reach 100% of our capacity. And I will argue that most leaders, most organizations aren't even scratching 50% of their collective potential. Well, just attend a meeting that isn't a good use of time and ask yourself how many people are in there and how much time was just wasted. Avoid 15 seconds of an uncomfortable conversation with a client and then spend 100 hours hustling to try to get that work done. Avoid a 30-minute performance management conversation with an employee and spend 40 hours a week doing their job. I mean, how many times have we seen people spending 8 hours doing hard and smart work, avoiding 5 or 10 minutes of uncomfortable work? And so uncomfortable work is the final frontier. It's the set of actions that humans and leaders need to take that we already know that we should do, that for some reason, because they trigger fear and emotional resistance, we talk ourselves out of them using the smart thing that we have up in our heads. As an example, I worked with an accounting firm where they got together and they said, okay, we need to increase utilization. So we're going to drive delegation down. Our 0 to 2 year associates need to be at 78%. They're at 56%. So we're going to hold the partners accountable to delegating the work, and then it's going to delegate down and utilization will go up. We're going to hire someone to come in and do a strategic plan. And one of the 4 pillars is accountability. We're going to say accountability is a thing. And then 1 year later, no joke, utilization of 0 to 2 year talent, exactly the same. They knew what to do, but they came up with smart reasons not to do it. Like the market for talent's so hard that if I hold them accountable, they'll quit. Even though they agreed, they were willing to let C and B players go to keep A players as an example. We invent these reasons not to do it. A partner at a firm that is doing the reports for her client because she doesn't want to have the performance conversation with the manager who's been sending inaccurate reports because a year ago, that manager cried when she gave her constructive criticism. The partner that needs to do business development and knows they could increase $1 million in top line, but they keep coming up with reasons to stay in the office and in the business because they're not willing to admit that talking to people makes them uncomfortable. Like there are 2 types of people that like to do business development. Like there are people that always like to do it for the outcome, but genuinely enjoy the process. 2 types of people, sociopaths and the rest of us. Okay. And so it's terribly uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
And so there's all these actions, salespeople asking for the business. I mean, you name it, technical people not saying they don't know, you name it. And so what happens is we end up doing even more hard work and even more smart work because we're avoiding the uncomfortable work. And so what I've developed is an understanding that if we can do those things that make us uncomfortable and then do them as addictively as a drug addict does drugs, there's no limit to what we can accomplish. And one of the things, like when I'm speaking to a firm, let's say, or an organization, or someone's going through our program, one of the things I draw up is I show, okay, like here's 30% of our potential is having the knowledge of what to do better. And thanks to the information economy, we have so much access. We used to have like sayings like the more you know, or knowledge is power, that we actually have this illusion that needs to be smashed, that we still think that we need the knowledge. Dude, all the knowledge is out there. I worked with an accounting firm that brought in 4 different programs to teach their people business development. Is it really that they need more tips and tricks, or is it they're just uncomfortable to do it and they're saying they need more technical expertise to do it? This isn't unique to accounting. I work with, you guys are familiar with Marsh McLennan, like the business insurance company. They have producers that are salespeople that will go retreat into trainings and think they need to learn the insurance products better, which will never master the insurance products because they don't want to go do all that asking for referrals stuff. It's so uncomfortable or whatever. So all this to say, people are avoiding these uncomfortable actions and they think that if they know them, they'll do them, and they're not. We do them 30% if we have the knowledge. And then even worse, we experience enough pain or enough inspiration and motivation, and then we do it. We finally have the performance conversation. We finally tell a client, I can't get it done in that deadline or whatever. We're finally fed up. We finally break up with the boyfriend or girlfriend that we knew we should have. I mean, this is not just our professional lives, right?
Right.
You finally finally draw the boundary with your child around screen time that you knew that you needed to do. It took me 6 months to get rid of YouTube shorts on our TVs because I was avoiding a difficult conversation with a 5 and 7-year-old. You know what I mean? So it takes us a while to do it, but then we finally do it. Okay. We finally do it and we execute. And that creates the illusion that also needs to be smashed, that if we've done it, we will do it. I had a weekend one time in active addiction where I managed to not put one substance in my body. I ate healthy, I exercised, I did all the next right things. And for the next year, when people told me I had a problem, I told them I could stop anytime I wanted because I thought about that weekend. And so what happens is when I talk about people avoiding difficult conversations or saying yes to things they should say no to, what happens is people remember the really hard moments where they actually said no or had the difficult conversation, and they forget all the potential and all the moments that are stacking up that they aren't doing that. And so they have a misperception of whether they're tapping their potential. And so knowledge is one thing, execution is the other, but you know what is the real magic and the real difference, and also what makes the difference between a drug addict and a normal person? It's one word and it starts with an F, and it's frequency. The frequency, you guys could have a drink after this and you're fine. The frequency by which you will have it is a difference between you and I.
Yeah.
Also, 90% of addicts will relapse in the first year. 99% of addicts will relapse in 10. The only difference between me and the others that try is the frequency by which I go to meetings and talk to my sponsor and work the steps and all that kind of stuff. It's about frequency. And so my obsession is we talk about these leadership gaps in qualitative terms. We need to lead more. We need to have more difficult conversations. I'm obsessed with how can we quantify all of the ones that we're not, arrive at a percentage of what we're not doing, and then create a systematic, intentional effort to do the uncomfortable work of the rest, because those are the ones that are in our blind spots that we're avoiding because they're uncomfortable for some reason, because it goes all the way back to our death or doom script. That's what makes them so uncomfortable. There's some fear inside of us that gets triggered, and fear is not rational. It's not logical, and it distorts our logic. And as a result, we stop leading ourselves. And so uncomfortable work is completely different than hard and smart work. But I tell you, 9 times out of 10, I'll talk to an audience and they'll walk out being like, well, we need to work smarter and we need to work harder, because they'll think the knowledge I just gave them is enough. If they aren't practicing these principles the way that a drug addict that wants recovery is practicing these principles, they're never going to do all their uncomfortable work. They're addicted to their comfort zones. So they need to use a process that was created 100 years ago to break that addiction.
Just brings it all back
good.
around.
Yes, right.
Yeah. Michael,
addicted to their comfort.
We have a serious problem here. We're running out of time, and there's so much more I want to talk about and cover. I would love to cover the concept of leadership wearing masks, because I think that is a horrible epidemic in our society. Just whether you're going to church, you show up at the office, or whatever, people are wearing these masks. But I don't think we have time to get into that. Buy the book, read the book. It's really good stuff. I want to make sure that I'm giving my teammates time to ask anything they want. And I know Christy's always writing stuff down, and I could just see the wheels working in her head there. Christy, do you have something that you want to ask while we kind of start moving towards wrapping up?
Yeah, I've got a whole list, but I'll just go with Michael. Thank you for being so comfortable with telling the truth. It's so powerful. It's scary. Truly.
Thank you.
It makes me look inside. And I'm probably one of those psychotics that loves business development. And so when I hear that,
us too.
it's exactly what we all talk about. What is our death and doom script? And then I start thinking, where am I playing a part in somebody else's script? It's that deep, how powerful your words were. Am I someone who thinks I'm an encourager? Whenever I actually come along and talk to them, am I creating some form of shame or embarrassment or competition or that ugly just comparison trap? So thank you. Thank you for being so comfortable with the truth and making me uncomfortable.
Thank you.
I mean that. I hope everyone in our audience will find something that allows them to be that honest with themselves.
Yeah. Sarah?
Thank you so much.
I'm going to piggyback off of what Christy was saying, because I was thinking the exact same thing, especially when it comes to business development, of what is my death and doom script in that? And then Christy, I mean, I can see it on her face too. Just like, is she, and that's part of my death and doom script. Is she thinking about me while she's,
it's a
while
vicious
she's
cycle.
speaking those things? Yes. So, but it's great insight. And then also I also wrote down addicted to their comfort. Cause the whole time I was thinking like, I'm a normie. How can I equivalate what you're saying? How can I be an addict? How do I have that mindset to really drive when I'm not addicted to anything? But then you said it at the end, I'm addicted to my comfort. So just taking that, and that was powerful. That was powerful.
We used to have a teammate that said, when we talk about our culture, we used to say we have this culture of care. We tweaked a little bit and someone said, we have a holistic way of caring about people. We want to care about them with truth that really helps them grow as a professional, that helps them learn and develop in their lane, not the lane that we think is best for them. And it comes down to this whole idea of this is brutal honesty. It all comes back to it. Wow.
So, Michael, we asked this question last time or an episode or two ago and got a pretty deep response on it. And I think it's applicable here as well. But what do you think is the one mistake that high earners and entrepreneurs continually make? The last answer we got was that they all think they're alone. Do you agree with that, or do you have a different big mistake that they're making?
I agree with that, and that they don't ask for help is the thing that I would add to that. But one thing I've been really thinking about and working on lately is I've taken a step back from my own addictive leadership, right? And I was in the business and I was like asking myself, why did I build the first company and go do all this stuff if I'm going to be missing like my daughter's graduation from kindergarten? Like, I'm not doing this for that. And I had to take a hard look at myself. And what I realized was, so I want to offer maybe a perspective that you won't get. High earners, high achievers, we become addicted to being high earners and high achievers. And when I say that, I mean, literally, we get addicted to the chemical states in our body. We start using work to regulate our nervous system, the same way a drug addict uses drugs to regulate theirs. Except instead of taking external drugs, we manufacture dopamine, cortisol, adrenaline. And so for me, one of the things I've had to look at is I have optimized my body to be completely addicted to those chemicals. And so every time I get to a place where, I've been really blessed in that I could not work or whatever, I can't do it. And it's because I am hooked on the chemicals that my body creates. And so I've seen so many entrepreneurs or high achievers, what they do is they once they reach a goal, they keep setting new goals. And if they don't have, I know some entrepreneurs, they don't need any more money. Then they set goals for, how many children they're going to feed or like whatever. And I'm not saying that those aren't good, but you got to look at the motivation, because also these people are still, their families are like, we miss you. And these people, cardiologists are still like, hey, dude, slow down or you're going to die. And they're still like incapable of sitting still. And I had a spiritual mentor once say, or he quoted someone that said, all wars were started because someone couldn't sit in a quiet room and feel comfortable in their own skin. And so I think that while, yes, externally, we think we're alone, we don't ask for help, we get addicted to achievement, maybe power, fame, or, success or money or material things, or we create, I have done this, create a standard of living almost as an excuse to keep going. Like I literally did that. I could have retired and then I stupidly, there's more, I can buy a bigger house, I can do this. And I didn't realize it. It's because I felt safer with another mountain to climb than I did saying, okay, I'm good. But I think we have to look at ourselves internally, because if we're addicted to comfort and we're high achievers, that means we're comfortable with the chaos. We're comfortable with the chase. We're comfortable with not being present with ourselves, with our higher powers, if we're into that, with our families. And I think like taking a really good hard look, I did this retreat in December as part of an intentional effort to distance myself from my company. I'm still tight with them, but I don't want to be in it at all. So I got great people that can run it. And I did this retreat that's called Living Center Program. It's by an organization called Onsite, like an hour and 15 minutes outside of Nashville. And it also is a digital detox. So I wasn't allowed to bring my Apple Watch, my phone, my computer, nothing. and I wasn't allowed to have contact with the outside world. And I spent 6 days detoxing from that stuff, going deeper and trying to rewire my body to not be hooked on being a human doing. And it was so transformative that, funny enough, you might see that I don't have an Apple Watch. For anybody listening, I'm wearing a pink $6 child's watch. So which leads you to one of two conclusions. I'm someone that you should not allow your children around, or I'm in the car with my kids and they tell us that we can't have the watch at this retreat, but we need something to keep time. And I'm taking them to school. I'm like, hey, do either of you have a watch I can borrow? My daughter's like, Daddy, you can have my watch. And she has this, just kind of like old digital watch or whatever. And I put it on and I wear it the whole time I'm there. And when I come back, I realize I don't want to be hooked to my drug dealer for dopamine, which is my Apple Watch and my phone. And so I come back and I tell my daughter, I'm like, thank you so much for that watch, because I wanted something that was a symbol of my experience there. And also I need to get another watch because I'm not going to keep my Apple Watch. And she said, Daddy, you can keep my watch. And so, I mean, it's not all sweet because it was followed up with, and what are you doing with your Apple Watch?
There you go.
And I'm like, okay, but you're 7, so that's going to be a no-go. Yes. But it was, and so that's why I wear it. But I think we get addicted to the physical state of being that high earner, that high achiever, and we don't understand we build a lot of intellectual rationalizations for why we're doing that, but we don't understand fully what our spirit is trading when we do that. I know that kind of is left field, but I just thought I'd throw that out there.
Oh, it's a nugget. Thank you.
It's a good.
Mm-hmm. So, Michael, as we close up here, what's the best way for people to contact you?
You go to addictiveleadership.com. That's my company, and there's a page for me. But you can also go to michaelbrody-waite.com. You can also Google me, Michael Brody-Waite. I have the blessing and curse of being the only Brody-Waite on earth. So like search engine optimization will work, but I got my butt kicked when I was a kid. So like, price, whatever. And then you can follow me on LinkedIn, and I like to put out content to help people. And yeah.
And I think I just realized that I called you Brody-Waite at the beginning of the podcast.
It for some reason so much, I don't even notice. It's all good.
Well, Michael, if you got 2 minutes, we have a customary wrap up that we do that is commonly and affectionately known as Mace.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was trying to do
rapid fire. Way to go.
You glitched on me, so I was like, okay. Sorry.
So I got a series of questions, Michael, that I want to run by you. First response is what we're looking for here.
And you're not looking for the 10-minute answers I've been getting this entire time?
No, okay, we don't need to go deep on this. We don't need to go deep on this. Breakfast or dinner with one person, living or dead, who is it?
Oh, it's my spiritual mom, Holly, who's no longer with us.
Okay. What do you do to care for yourself?
Pray, meditate, and work my 12-step program and take care of my body, because it's not my kid's fault that I had him when I was when I was older.
Yeah. What do you spend money on every time?
Quality vacations, because experiences are the things that my kids are going to remember, even though I also spend money every time on other things that are material that box us out of even more vacations. But that's the one that, I'm going to spend money on.
Yeah. All right. Last question. What universe secret do you most want to know?
How to truly be comfortable not knowing how everything works out, instead of being comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah. That's deep. That's good. That's deep.
Good one to end on.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow. Michael, thank you so much. This has been so rich and so good. I know I'm going to listen to it a few different times to get some of these nuggets down and try to implement some of them, because I could relate so much to what you're talking about. So again, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
If you want to contact us, if you want to ask us any questions, if you got an idea for a future podcast episode, or just want to tell Sarah that she needs to listen to me when I'm trying to wrap up a podcast, you can contact us at podcast@cckcpa.com. That's podcast@cckcpa.com. We'd love to hear from you. As always, we want to thank CCK for the opportunity to use this platform and medium as something a little bit different in our industry. So thank you to CCK. KP, thank you for always keeping us on point. Robert Mays for our intro and outro music. Clarence Fisher, our mighty sage with Tulsa Internet Marketing Services. thank you for helping us get this podcast off the ground and across the goal line, and Emily Johansson for doing all the behind the scenes work. Again, we hope you were blessed by the conversation today, and we hope that you join us next time as these two CPAs get together to have a chat and you get to find out who is on the mic.
The information provided on this podcast is for general informational and educational purposes only and does not constitute accounting, tax, legal, or financial advice. While we strive to provide accurate and up-to-date information, laws and regulations change and individual circumstances vary. Always consult with a qualified CPA or professional advisor before making any financial or business decisions. The views expressed by the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of any organizations they are affiliated with. Listening to this podcast does not create a client-accountant relationship. By listening to this podcast, you acknowledge and agree to those terms. And that's a wrap for this episode of Two CPAs and the Mic. If you found today's episode helpful, please subscribe, share, and leave us a review. Have questions or ideas for a topic? Reach out. We'd love to hear from you. Email us at podcast@cckcpa.com.